Have you ever noticed that not every horror movie feels the same? Some movies make your heart race with jump scares. Others leave you feeling disturbed for days. Some are filled with ghosts and demons, while others prove that ordinary humans can be far more terrifying than any supernatural creature. That's because horror isn't just one genre. It's made up of many different subgenres, each designed to scare us in a unique way. Let's explore them. Psychological horror is all about the mind. Instead of relying on monsters or ghosts, it creates fear through paranoia, trauma, guilt, hallucinations, and the uncertainty of what's real. As the story unfolds, both the characters and the audience begin questioning reality itself. The greatest enemy isn't hiding in the shadows, it's inside the human mind. Supernatural horror focuses on things beyond scientific explanation. Ghosts, demons, curses, haunted houses, and evil spirits become the main source of fear. These stories remind us that some mysteries can't be solved with logic, making the unknown feel even more frightening. Slasher horror is one of the most recognizable horror subgenres. A relentless killer hunts victims one by one, building suspense with every scene. Viewers never know who will survive, and that constant uncertainty keeps the tension high until the very end. Body horror takes a different approach by turning the human body itself into the source of fear. Characters experience disturbing mutations, diseases, or physical transformations that make familiar bodies look completely unnatural. It reminds us that our own bodies can sometimes become our worst nightmare. Cosmic horror explores fears far beyond Earth. Instead of ordinary monsters, these stories introduce ancient beings and mysterious forces so powerful that humans can't even understand them. The true horror isn't being attacked. It's realizing how small and insignificant humanity really is in the vast universe. Folk horror brings fear into isolated villages, ancient forests, and forgotten communities where old traditions still survive. Strange rituals, mysterious beliefs, and hidden cults create an unsettling atmosphere where outsiders quickly realize they don't belong. Found footage horror makes everything feel real. Instead of traditional filmmaking, the story is shown through recovered video recordings, security cameras, or handheld footage. The realistic presentation tricks viewers into feeling like they're watching actual events unfold. Monster horror is exactly what it sounds like. Giant creatures, mysterious beasts, or deadly monsters threaten humanity's survival. Whether they are mythical, mutated, or completely unknown, these creatures represent our oldest fears of powerful predators. Creature features are a special type of monster movie. Instead of many monsters, the story usually focuses on one dangerous creature hunting humans. The suspense comes from discovering how the creature thinks, hunts, and whether anyone can stop it before it's too late. Zombie horror is about much more than the undead. It explores what happens when society collapses. As infections spread and civilization falls apart, survival becomes the only goal. In many zombie stories, other humans eventually become even more dangerous than the zombies themselves. Vampire horror combines fear with temptation. Vampires are often portrayed as charming, intelligent, and immortal, but behind their elegance lies a deadly predator. These stories explore themes like power, addiction, eternal life, and the price of immortality. Werewolf horror focuses on transformation and loss of control. Characters struggle with a curse that slowly turns them into violent beasts. The real fear comes from knowing the monster isn't someone else. It's you. Haunted house horror transforms a place that should feel safe into somewhere terrifying. Every room hides secrets, every hallway creates suspense, and every strange sound makes both the characters and the audience wonder what might appear next. Possession horror tells stories of evil spirits or demons taking control of a person's body. Families watch helplessly as someone they love slowly becomes a completely different person. The fear comes from losing control over your own body and mind. Religious horror explores the battle between good and evil through faith, demons, angels, prophecies, and sacred symbols. These stories often ask difficult questions about belief while using ancient myths and religious traditions to create powerful horror. Survival horror strips away comfort and leaves characters with only one objective: stay alive. Whether facing monsters, deadly environments, or terrifying enemies, every decision can mean the difference between life and death. Home invasion horror destroys the feeling of safety we associate with our homes. When strangers break in, familiar rooms become dangerous, and nowhere feels secure anymore. The audience experiences fear because the threat feels realistic and could happen almost anywhere. Splatter horror focuses on graphic violence and extreme gore. Rather than relying only on suspense, these films use shocking visual effects and exaggerated bloodshed to provoke strong emotional reactions. Gore horror is similar but pays greater attention to realistic injuries and disturbing physical damage. The goal is to make viewers uncomfortable through graphic detail rather than supernatural fear. Torture horror centers on victims trapped in situations where they face both physical pain and psychological suffering. The horror comes from impossible choices, helplessness, and the limits of human endurance. Science fiction horror combines futuristic ideas with terrifying consequences. Aliens, artificial intelligence, dangerous experiments, space exploration, and advanced technology become the source of fear. These stories warn that scientific progress can sometimes create disasters beyond our control. Medical horror turns hospitals and laboratories into places of terror. Deadly diseases, failed experiments, unethical doctors, and biological mutations remind us that science can be both life-saving and deeply frightening. Eco-horror imagines nature fighting back against humanity. Animals attack, forests become deadly, plants spread uncontrollably, or environmental disasters threaten civilization. It reminds us that humans are not always in control of the natural world. Technology horror reflects modern fears about artificial intelligence, smartphones, social media, surveillance, and virtual reality. The devices we depend on every day slowly become impossible to escape, turning technology into an invisible threat. Analog horror is one of the newest horror subgenres. Instead of traditional storytelling, it uses old VHS tapes, emergency broadcasts, surveillance footage, and distorted television recordings. The grainy visuals and missing information force viewers to imagine what happened, making the experience surprisingly unsettling. Comedy horror proves that fear and laughter can exist together. Funny moments relax the audience before sudden scares catch them off guard, creating an entertaining balance between humor and horror. Gothic horror is one of the oldest forms of horror storytelling. Dark castles, abandoned mansions, tragic romance, family curses, storms, and mysterious secrets create an atmosphere filled with beauty, sadness, and dread. Many modern horror movies still borrow elements from this timeless style. Lovecraftian horror is a branch of cosmic horror inspired by stories of ancient gods and forbidden knowledge. The more characters discover about these unimaginable beings, the closer they come to losing their sanity. Sometimes, knowing the truth is more terrifying than remaining ignorant. Holiday horror takes familiar celebrations like Christmas or Halloween and twists them into terrifying experiences. What should be joyful becomes dangerous, proving that even the happiest traditions can hide dark secrets. Crime horror replaces supernatural monsters with human evil. Serial killers, kidnappers, and violent criminals become the source of fear, reminding us that real people are often capable of the most horrifying acts. Although these horror subgenres are very different, they all have one thing in common. They explore the fears that every human being carries inside. Whether it's fear of death, fear of the unknown, fear of isolation, fear of losing control, or fear of humanity itself, horror transforms those emotions into unforgettable stories. And that's why horror continues to evolve. As the world changes, our fears change too, and horror filmmakers continue finding new ways to bring those fears to life on screen. So the next time you watch a horror movie, ask yourself one question. What kind of fear is this movie trying to awaken? You might discover that horror is far more diverse and far more fascinating than you ever imagined.